This is my official Cyberpunk 2077 review, but there is one really big red flag. And I don't necessarily want to start the video off on a negative note, but if you guys could tell in my last few Cyberpunk videos, I haven't really been the happiest or I haven't really looked excited. And that's because this game was a pretty big letdown for me. And one of the biggest reasons is because I literally cannot play the final mission of the game. I'm not going to go too deep into bugs right now, but I just wanted to preface the video by saying that I couldn't play the final mission and that I technically have not finished the story, but I've played literally like 99% of it. Obviously, the ending is the biggest part of the story, but as of right now, I can only make a review on what I've played, and the game is not letting me play the final mission. Now, I've seen this bug occur on a lot of people's games. There's a whole Reddit thread about it, and there's a lot of questions in the Cyberpunk website, and a lot of people are just saying you have to go back to a certain save file, but I don't want to get rid of all of my progress because I played a lot. But I have a lot of subcategories and stuff that I want to get to in this video, so without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to start this video off by talking about the stuff that I really liked about the story and the stuff that I thought it did really well. I really thought that the story built up the side characters really well, and if anything, they built them up better than they did the main character. So an example of these side characters that stories were really well built up and really well written in general were number one, Judy, and then Pan Am, and then that rich couple, that side mission, that side story with the rich couple. I don't know their names, I kind of forgot. But yeah, all three of those stories were super great, and I'm super glad that they added really detailed side missions to kind of complete that story. The next thing that I really liked about the game and the story specifically was the engagement between missions. I didn't really feel like I was forced to go do the next story mission, and I'm kind of glad that I had a little gap between each mission where I could do other side stories and kind of feel still engaged and immersed in Night City, but just not playing the story. I also like how in a lot of missions they made you wait for the person, so in that time waiting, obviously you could either skip the time or you could go do other missions that eventually affect your character's decisions later in the game. The next thing, and probably my favorite thing in the story, is that you're able to play as different characters. It doesn't really matter if you're playing as Johnny or if you're playing as V because the gameplay is always entertaining and it feels like there's always something cool going on. I also like how whenever you switch from V to Johnny, you don't really get taken out of that immersive experience. And I'm going to be talking about immersion a lot because I feel like that's really the point of the game, is to kind of like put you into Night City. And the final thing I want to talk about in the story is that the game isn't like a checklist. And that's kind of what this game felt like at first. But as I kept going through, it felt more fluid and the story kind of felt ongoing as it would normally. It didn't really feel forced. And personally, I was kind of breezing through the story, obviously, because I wanted to make content on it. And that's just kind of what I have to do if I want to make videos. I don't really have time for side missions. And this is kind of where all the cons come in. For me, I was just playing the story at first. I wasn't really doing any side missions until later. And this kind of led me to thinking about how a lot of the characters were unexplored and they were just kind of there to kind of make up for other stuff in the story that was lacking. And the stuff that was lacking was kind of the detail in V's past. From my personal experience, it felt like all of these characters would be putting in for no reason, and they were kind of just there to kill time and make up little missions in the big mission overall. Now, obviously, that's what a story is there for. There's always going to be small obstacles, and then those characters that are introduced are going to help you get through those small obstacles. But in Cyberpunk, it just felt like they were super blunt and blatant about it, and they never really blended in with the story fully. One of my biggest issues with the game is the amount of time that the dialogue takes up. I know this game is supposed to be a role-playing game or an RPG, but a lot of this dialogue doesn't even matter, and these decisions don't really matter or affect you until the very final mission, which I literally cannot play. Like I said before, I was kind of breezing through the story and I wasn't really doing any side missions until later when I literally had no choice because I could not play the final mission. I'm sorry for getting annoyed at me saying I can't play the final mission. It just really pisses me off, and I think you'd understand because I played this game for like 40 plus hours and I literally cannot finish it. But going back to what I was saying about the main story, it literally took me anywhere from 15 to 16 hours because I was kind of breezing through it for content. I really feel like 15 to 17 hours is super unacceptable, especially because CD Projekt Red promoted this game like it was a super long game. And I understand I didn't do a lot of side missions, or actually I barely did anything. Actually, I barely did anything except for the main story when I was recording content for the game. But still, that doesn't really make an excuse for it to be 15 to 17 hours. That's literally nothing. I know everyone in the comments is going to say, okay, that's your fault for not playing the side missions, but the side missions have no effect on the story. CD Projekt Red is literally trying to like lure you in to make you think that it has an effect, where in reality, almost all the decisions have no effect on your final outcome until the actual final mission. CD Projekt Red advertised this game as something completely different than what we actually got, and I'm going to go more into that later, but I just want to tell you guys that because a lot of people think that they didn't do that, but they definitely did. I also want to point out that the first 2 weeks that this game came out, I was literally defending it with my life. I was having so much fun with the game, and then all the bugs started to roll in for me. A lot of people had bugs in the beginning, but I've been having bugs the last like 2 weeks, not the first 2 weeks. As I mentioned before, I like to be immersed in Night City, and obviously that's the whole point of the game, is to be V or in Night City. You're supposed to experience it fully, and that's kind of part of the immersion. Like your head is supposed to be in Night City, but I felt like a lot of the bugs and glitches literally took me out of Night City. Like I literally had to reset the game or my game crashed, and all those little things like that just made the game suck for me. So now I'm going to go on to overall issues that I have with the game. Now, obviously this review is going to be really negative because I literally cannot finish the game and I'm kind of mad about it. Actually, I'm not kind of, I'm really mad about it, and I just don't want to even play that game anymore because it really sucks that I put so much time into the game and I'm literally getting nothing out of it. I cannot finish the story that I spent so much time on. But these are some overall issues that I have with the game that aren't really story related. They're just in general with the like open world and all that kind of stuff. First of all, I think the UI really needs to be optimized or updated or whatever you want to call it, because at random times I have random gun stats on my screen. I had it at one point at like half of the Pan Am mission, and then I saved my progress and then exit out of the game and reset. Didn't work, and then I did it again, and then I loaded into a new game, and that file was saved from like a day ago, so I had to redo all of the stuff that I did, and then the stats finally went off of my screen. Another really big issue with this game is that the AI is super clueless, and the range of difficulty really sucks in this game because the super hard difficulty is way too difficult and the easy difficulty is way too easy. And then the AI kind of varies between that too. The AI is way too difficult in the hard version, but it's way too easy in the easy version. There's no good in between. I also think that character customization in this game has no effect on the actual game because that's not what they like advertise it as. They said that your character will kind of be special and your character leads you through Night City. It doesn't really do that. Personally, I feel like character creation and the amount of customization they gave us was one of those tactics to kind of trick us into thinking that we're actually in the front seat of the game and we actually have a lot of choices and decisions to make in the game's storyline when we in reality really don't. And this is just a smaller issue, but there's not much varying loot in the game. It's not as widespread as I thought it'd be. Like there's only like 3 different things that you really want to use in the game, which is pistols, katanas, and snipers. I don't use an AR. If I do, it's because I ran out of SMG ammo. And I feel like obviously that really depends on your build. And actually that's one thing I like about the game. I really like that there's a lot of different builds that you can do. I mean, I personally don't really have a primary. I just use whatever I want. But I'm just not that deep into the game, I guess, as other people. But other people really build their whole character around a certain loadout and stuff like that. And that's really cool. I like that they did that. And I like that even if you didn't want to do that, you're still really good at the game. You still have a lot of fun. And I kind of like how they gave you that choice. But again, the loot pool is very, very like bland, and there's not much variation that you can have in it because there's always certain weapons that are OP and they don't really update the game at all. And that leads me into my overall bugs section of the video. They don't update the game. At this point, they don't really care for us, I guess. I haven't really seen any good updates for base PS4 console, which I'm playing on. And I know another really big argument with this game is whether we should be cutting CD Projekt Red's slack for the game not working that well on base consoles. And I don't think we should cut them any slack at all because they're releasing it on base consoles. If it only worked on the new gen consoles, then they should have only released it for the new gen consoles. That's something that's wrong with CD Projekt Red, their investors, their management. I don't know who it goes to or whose decision that was. That was really wrong on their part, in my opinion. And they literally just gave me a buggy game for $60, and I'm not going to return it because I already spent like 40 plus hours on the game total. Like I said before, they're not really doing any updates that are primarily for base console. For example, the last update, when this video comes out, I don't know if it'll be the exactly last update, but the day I'm recording this video, which is January 2nd, the last update from January 2nd was primarily for PS5. They're not the ones who need the bug updates. PS4 does, Xbox does. These base consoles need more work to be done to them to make this game more optimized for us. It's not fair because we paid $60 for this game and we're literally getting an unfinished game. And as I said before, that's not at all what they advertised it as. If you guys look at the videos they advertised and exactly what they said that we would be getting, we didn't even get half of what they said they would give us. So really quickly, I want to give a whole timeline of me playing this game. So basically the first week of the game, I recorded gameplay that first weekend, didn't really record during those weekdays, and I started recording those gameplay tutorial videos that you guys see on the channel. Then The bugs started to get in for me a little bit, right? Starting that second week, that's when I started encountering a little more game crashes, maybe like one every 2 days that I was playing the game, which obviously isn't that much compared to other people. My friend Brentley was having way more bugs than me at that point. But now it's kind of shifted into that third week slash third weekend. So that third weekend, I started recording a lot of videos. And honestly, I was kind of surprised that I wasn't getting any game crashes at all, especially the amount I was playing the game. And on top of that, in the game, I was using a lot more heavier graphics weapons, like the Mantis Blades a lot more, Monowire a lot more, and more specifically, the projectile launcher. Now, for the rest of that third week, I literally did not touch the game because I was out of town. After this update, I literally could not use the projectile missile launcher or the Mantis Blades. And I can barely use snipers, and my frame rate drops like every 2 minutes when I'm driving a car. But on the other hand, and I have receipts on screen right now, I'll show you guys the tweet right now. On the other hand, on PlayStation 5, apparently the game literally looks like it has no flaws, and the game is basically perfected. Now, I know this video has turned into a rant of sorts and all the stuff that I hate about the game, but like I said before, there are a lot of pros to the game, and it's just that bugs have taken me out of the full immersion of Night City. So the day I'm recording this video is January 2nd. On December 30th, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think it was December 30th, I bought Ghost of Tsushima. And I kind of want to compare these games really quick. I mean, obviously I can't fully compare them, but I just want to kind of compare the immersion. Now, Ghost of Tsushima came out a little while ago, like 4 or 5 months ago, or 5, 6 months ago, I don't even know. But it came out a decent amount of time ago. And I honestly am feeling really immersed in the world, or immersed in the world. I feel like I'm really playing as a samurai. I feel like I'm really a samurai. And I feel like there's more overall like dragging me into that world. And part of that is that there aren't bugs taking me out of that world. And there aren't like little things that are kind of like ticking me off to kind of stop playing. In Cyberpunk, small stuff has started to really get me mad in this game. I mean, obviously, before I had a little more tolerance with it because it wasn't happening too often. But now, every time I get into the car, switching my camera angle takes about 10 seconds. And that 10 seconds is a long time, especially when you're in a side mission where you're trying to chase another car. Again, it's just small stuff that keeps taking me out of this game. And I honestly loved this game so much before all of these bugs started pouring in for me. So I want to talk about my final consensus of the game. Obviously, this video was literally filled with me just ranting about stuff that I hated about the game. But again, I truly am in love with the story of this game. Now, yes, obviously the basic like plot line of the story wasn't that good, and it really wasn't what like they advertised to us, and everything wasn't as we expected. Everything was honestly a lot worse than we expected. I really expect this game to be much better. But that being said, the story wasn't bad. Whether I'm just talking about the story, I have to include bugs in it because that's part of my experience of playing the game. Now, if I was to judge it just based off of story and gameplay without my bugs and stuff like that, if I had encountered 0 bugs, this game honestly kind of would have been perfect because the whole immersion part of the game really worked for me until the bugs kicked in. Now, before I rate this game, I want to give you guys a little bit of context as to how I've rated games in the past. So just so you guys know kind of what standard I'm going off of. So I gave Spider-Man Miles Morales an 8.5 out of 10. I give Spider-Man PS4 a 9.5 out of 10. I give Just Cause 3 an 8 out of 10. I haven't played all of Red Dead Redemption 2 by myself, but I've watched all of Hollow Point's playthrough through it, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And if I played it myself, I would probably give it a 10 out of 10. My final rating for Cyberpunk 2077 is based on my bug encounters. So far, what I played of the story and what Cyberpunk is literally allowing me to play the story, because I literally cannot play the final mission, it's not unlocked for me, is an 8.5 out of 10. The reason I'm giving it an 8.5, and yes, that's the same rating that I gave Spider-Man Miles Morales, the reason I gave this game an 8.5 out of 10 is, yes, the story was great. Yes, the side stories and the side missions were great. Yes, the gameplay was great. But I, for the love of God, could not get immersed into the story. I physically was not able to get immersed into the story because I kept on getting taken out of Night City with these bugs and issues in the game. Now, maybe when I play this game on next gen, it'll be a lot better for me. And when I get a next gen console, I want to replay this game so I can get the full experience. But as of now, there's nothing I can do about it. And in my opinion, CD Projekt Red should not have released this game.